Welcome back to the sweatshop. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2011 Subaru Outback. What we're doing on the Outback today is we are doing a transmission service, which of course involves us draining out the CVT fluid and filling it back up again. This is not the hardest job in the world. Well, the hardest part about it is really getting a scan tool that will tell you your ATF temperature. If you don't have one, you're not going to be able to do this job. The other thing is waiting for the temperature to come down, especially if you are in a hot climate. It can take forever. It needs to be between 35 degrees and 45 degrees in order to attain the reading that you like. I like to get that reading at 40 degrees, which, well, I'm rambling too much and I'll tell you all that stuff as the video goes along. As for fluid, I always recommend getting the OEM stuff. I'm sure you can find the OE manufacturer and it's most definitely somebody else other than Subaru, but risking it is stupid. And yeah, if you put the wrong CVT fluid in your transmission, you're not going to be happy. These transmissions are ridiculously expensive, and man, are they a pain in the ass to get rebuilt properly by somebody who's qualified. At least, well, I haven't found a good rebuilder yet. Anyhow, go ahead, get yourself the fluid. I have 6 bottles up top here, but I've also got a box of fluid because I have a number of CVT fluid transmissions to service. That being said, if you are buying from your local dealership, I probably get myself at least 7 liters. Probably 8, because you can always return if your dealer isn't some sort of weird dealership that doesn't take fluid back for some odd reason. Of course, if it's not used. Another thing you'll need to overcome if you are trying to do this in your driveway is this vehicle needs to be level. You cannot do this with it unlevel. Transmissions of the past, you can sometimes get away with it having a slight elevation in the front. Not good and not something you want to do with a CVT. If you don't get the right readings because you are messing around with having 2 jack stands instead of 4 to level this thing out, bad decision. Also, I would not recommend going to some of these quick lube joints because they're not going to use the Subaru fluid and they're probably not going to do it properly. It is a time-consuming job. You do need to let the vehicle cool down. You need to make sure it is nice and cold before you go ahead and start working on it. A lot of dealers as well as quick lube places unfortunately don't give it the time that it needs. If you are going to do this service, if you're a technician, I suggest that you do the work with something else so you have something to do instead of staring at the car. Other than that, there really is nothing else to this job. As long as you have a scanner and a way to make sure the vehicle is level so you can crawl underneath this thing, you are good to go. It is smooth sailing. It's pretty easy, nothing hard. If you are going to do this, make sure you dispose of the fluid responsibly. Don't be an idiot and throw it down the drain. That being said, before we get started with today's video, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. Okay, let's put this thing up in the air. Right here, we are looking at our drain plug. If your transmission does not look like this, in terms of the drain plug position and the oil pan shape, I suggest finding out if you have the correct transmission. As far as I know, I think there are 3 different transmissions for Subaru CVTs. There's the TR580, I believe, and then this guy here is a TR690. And I don't know what the code is for the WRX. I think it looks like this. I can't remember, to be honest, but it does take a different fluid. That I know for a fact, because when I purchased it, it was different and more expensive than this stuff. So anyhow, make sure you have the right transmission. If you're working on an Outback like I am, then you'll have the same one because the Outback only came with 1 CVT. The Impreza or anything that has a 2-liter engine usually has the 580, and then the Turbo WRX has its own variation of the CVT. That being said, you will need a 8mm hex. When trying to break these guys loose, you want to make sure that hex is all the way in there. They're not held in by an enormous amount of torque, but man oh man, if you screw that thing up, you're not gonna be a happy person. So make sure the socket's nice and all the way in there, and then you can go ahead and drain your fluid. Of course, before you get started with draining your fluid, ensure that this thing is nice and cold. It is cold to the touch for me, so I know it's way under. If you're in the south of the States and it's nice and hot all the time, well, it's gonna take forever to cool down. Usually I just throw a fan at them and let it get down to 30 degrees. That way when I start it up, it doesn't come up to temperature too quickly. I can, you know, get in the thing, shift through it and all that stuff. Now, that's enough rambling. Get a drain bucket and a 8mm and drain that guy. Now, I don't know if this thing's ever been serviced, but it's got about 200,000 6 kilometers on it, I think. Oh yeah, baby. I hope it has been serviced. Subaru, depending on what year you bought your car, depending on when you bought your car, Subaru kind of did a stupid thing and tried to sell people a pipe dream of never having to service their vehicles. And initially, I think the North American Subarus, or their owner's manuals, were telling people that they did not have to service their CVT, which was stupid. In my opinion, you should be servicing this thing every 50,000 kilometers after your first initial service, which is recommended by, I think, the Japanese Subaru dealerships after your first 100,000 kilometers. It just makes sense. I mean, a lot of people will say things like, oh, well, the CVT is kind of weak. It's not super robust, in my opinion, as compared to the automatic. But if you service the thing, they are fairly reliable. So far, we've got some CVTs that are up around 300,000 kilometers, which, I mean, yeah, it's not as high as some of the automatics, but that's quite a bit of mileage. And for a lot of folks out there who say the CVTs in the Subarus are unreliable, not my opinion. I don't like them as much. I like a manual gearbox above anything else, but you know, who's buying those things anymore, right? Nonetheless, in my opinion, the CVT is fairly reliable as long as you service the thing. If you don't, the wonderful thing that is the valve body on this thing is extremely expensive. You have to replace it because the solenoid that fails on them because of the debris that builds up, just the shavings and metal material, well, that shit is expensive. And the solenoid you cannot get separate from the valve body. As for the solenoid that a lot of people seem to think is kind of shitty built, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but so far I found that if you maintain the things, well, they last, and we haven't had to replace some of those solenoids or valve bodies because of failed solenoids. So yeah, hopefully you never have to replace your valve body because it's expensive and it's a pain in the ass job. Not the end of the world sort of job, it's just nasty. I don't like getting CVT fluid all over my hands and shit. It stinks. Alright, let this guy continue to drain out. We're gonna let it drain for probably a good, I don't know, half an hour. You can see that the pan has the drain plug hole kind of elevated, so there is some fluid in here. I don't like that. I like to get it all out, but yeah, unfortunately Subaru just thought that was a better decision for some reason. Yeah. Okay, that's enough rambling. While you let the transmission drain, you don't have to sit around with your hands idle. You can go ahead now and work that 8mm into your fill plug. There are a few plugs in the transmission, and it may be, I mean, it's quite obvious to, I guess, most technicians, but you can get kind of confused because everything's all rusty colored and whatnot. You're looking at this big one here. That is your fill plug. If you have a fill plug on the side, you have a different transmission, and the torque spec for the drain plug will be different. So, you know, take heed of that. Make sure you're working on the correct transmission if you're watching this as just a general service video for a Subaru. They're not all the same. Work this 8mm in all the way. Damn it, that's a 10mm. Same advice as the drain plug. Make sure you get the 10mm all the way in. Oh, is that the kind of... That's the kind of plug you want to be? Get a hammer. We're going to teach this mother. Oh, la 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 la. Obviously, don't smash it like a gorilla if you break the transmission housing. Well, I currently don't have a video showing you how to replace a transmission on a Subaru CVT. Maybe in the future, but all my customers maintain theirs, so we haven't had to yet. Yay! All right, with that out of the way now, we can go ahead, put our drain plug back in, and then we shall start to fill this transmission with some brand new oil. It's wonderful. All right, grab your wonderful drain plug and slide it on into place. Thread it up all the way by hand. Then grab your torque wrench and set it to 15 foot-pounds or 20 Newton meters. Now, we gotta get ourselves some sort of pump and pump some fluid. Now, when pumping in your fluid, there's really only one option. It is a dual pump. The dual pump is a bit of a pain in the ass and requires a lot of pumping, which will make your arms tired. So, what I like to do is use my mechanical pump, which I really like. Unfortunately, most of you guys probably won't have access to something like this. I just use my Honda transmission pump thingamabobber. That thing pumps oil in, no problem. I welded a socket on the end, and I just spin it up with one of my impact drivers. Now, two things, whenever you're filling it up, you want to make sure that the hose is obviously small enough, but if it is snug and is basically taking up the circumference of the hole, you don't want to overfill the thing. You can fill up quite a bit of fluid in that little area there. So what you want to make sure is that you have a little pick at the bottom so that you have an area where fluid can leak out when you fill the thing up. That being said, what you need to do now is go ahead and start pumping fluid into this thing. I think it's usually most transitions usually take about 5 to 6 liters, but you know, sometimes they like to drain out a bit more and you never want to be short, so always a good idea to have extra. That being said, if you are doing it with a dual pump, I suggest having a friend to hold the bottle while you pump, because man, it can be a real pain in the ass when everything falls all over the place. Okay, I'm going to begin pumping and stop rambling. There you go, that's one bottle. Now you see why I like my mechanical pump. I gotta build like a little thing to hold these friggin' bottles while I'm doing this shit, because it takes so much more time to mess with this stuff, you know. Pour the remainder into the other bottle. Yeah, let's see if it goes, there it go. Now. I thought that one was taking a bit long. This is actually sucking the bottle instead of fluid. That was number 2. Right. Slip the hose over to the next hole. Try not to spill any of the fluid. The Subaru fluid has this nice hue to it. Kind of cool looking, but yeah, whatever. Doesn't stink like the other WRX fluid. Anyhow. Hey man, it's not okay if you fall, eh? What's your problem? Really? So dramatic, Subaru bottle. That is bottle number 3. Oh. Well, are we there? We are at 4. We're gonna pump in the full 4 because it always takes a little bit more. Alright, that's 4 bottles. You can see we're dripping. So I know there's a little bit extra in there, which I want because, well, this stupid thing always takes a little bit more, as you'll see. Pull that guy out. Now you can see there the point that I'm trying to drive home. It's obviously full, but there's no drippy now because, well, the hose is too big for the oil. Pull that guy out. Come on, baby. Oh shit, make sure it doesn't fall like it just happened to me. Okay, let us move all of this bullshit out of the way. Of course, just snug this guy up. Don't leave it loose because, well, it'll spray fluid out of there. Okay, now we have to go ahead and lower it. We'll plug in our scanner and make sure there are no DTC codes stored in the computer for the transmission or engine, really, but whatever. And then we will go ahead and run our car up the temperature. All right, let us do it. Okay, so we are currently in the car, and as you can see, we are at 16 degrees Celsius. This thing is nice and cold. We have also made sure that there are no stored DTCs for engine or transmission. Now what we need to do is start this thing up. Now, with the car running, you're going to have to take your selector, leave it for 10 seconds in each position. What you want to do is run through the selector range 2 to 3 times. Really, I do this continuously until it gets up to temperature, and temperature for me is 35 degrees. Once it gets up to 35 degrees over here, or 37 at the latest, I put this thing back up in the air, all the while keeping an eye on my temperature, making sure that this thing is going to not exceed 40 degrees. Then I go ahead, I pull the fill plug and check to see whether I need to add fluid, which 100% of the time so far I've had to add fluid. So yeah. Now you also want to keep this thing, man, that idler's so bad, it sounds like a bird underneath the hood. You also want to keep this thing at idle. It will come down to idle soon enough after being started, and your temperature is going to take a while to rise. So yeah, I'll see you back. Hopefully that all made sense. Remember, 10 seconds in each position, back and forth from drive to park. Okay, currently the car is on. We are at idle and up in the air. Of course, we now need to verify that our temperature is where we want it, between 35 and 45 degrees. Currently, we are at 35, and, well, I'm tired of waiting, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this plug out. Make sure your drain bucket is underneath, and crank it. Should have another bottle on hand because it always sucks down another bottle. Slip your fill tube back in there. Make sure you throw in your wonderful pick as well so that, well, you know that you're not overfilling this thing. Let's reposition the camera because it's too close and, well, it's gonna make my life a pain in the ass. All right, begin pumping. Oh, don't fucking fall, stupid thing. Will 5 do it? That's the question. I think that's it. I think 5's done her. Now you can see the color of the fluid coming out there. This thing, I don't know if it's ever been serviced, but they usually look like that after a good while, so she ain't doing so well. We've shoved 5 liters in her, and I think that's it for this. Yeah, there you go. Shove your fill plug back in, tighten it up, and grab your torque wrench. Set your torque wrench to 37 foot-pounds or 50 Newton meters. Okay, now we need to get this thing off. Come on, get off the car, you fucking rusty pile of shit. There we go. One other thing, make sure the thing is in park before you go ahead and fill it back up. Also, you cannot skip this step. A lot of shops will, and it's stupid because it ruins your transmission. Go ahead now, grab yourself some brake clean and spray down the oil so that you make sure you don't have any leaks when you inspect it later. Do the drain plug as well if you haven't already. I'm gonna lower this thing and shut it off because, well, the fumes from the goddamn car are killing me. That is pretty much all she wrote for this one. All you gotta do now is take this thing for a test drive, make sure all is well. Of course, crawl underneath it, make sure it's not leaking. As you can see, it is not a hard job. It is definitely something that is more time consuming than anything else, but there's no real major skill that is needed to complete this task. You can definitely do it in the driveway, provided you watch the video and take the necessary safety precautions. Of course, if all is well, hopefully you found the video entertaining as well as informative. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. And as always, thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one. Welcome back to the sweatshop. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2011 Subaru. Oh, I said that weird. 2011. This fucking piece of shit camera is drifting over. There we go. Stationary. Stabilize yourself. Fuck it, we'll cut it up. I suggest make sure it's my Chinese Tourette's there. So you have something to do while you stare at the car. After your first 100,000 kilometers of miles. What? The CVT, in my opinion, is fairly reliable. It'll have a fairly wonderful thing that we call a solenoid. Oh, wait, no, a valve body. I just rambled on there. I don't know what the fuck I just said. Yeah, I don't like getting CVT fluid all over my hands and shit. It stinks. And well, it's a lot more work, which sucks. But okay, did you see that? Why the fuck did you just do the dance there, gimbal? Fucking stupid. Where's my fucking dream? Where did I put it? Oh, where the fuck did I put that shit now? My fucking pen. God damn it. While you let the transmission drain, you don't have to sit around with your la 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 la. La 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 la. Yeah, the Subaru who you what? Oh, do not eat the brake clean. Nay, we don't have many bottles of that left, and well, quite frankly, we don't have money to replace it. Oh yeah, suck that fluid, suck it real good. I'm so fucking retarded. Oh fuck, I hate doing that shit. It's so messy sometimes. To wipe off my finger in order to touch my phone. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this dipstick. That's a plug, Jimmy. Goddamn. And of course, if you are gonna do this job at home, make sure you, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Hopefully all is well in Subaru land and you have no issues that tissues won't solve. Hopefully you found the video entertaining. Of course, the fuck I just said.